Over the last few months, we've reported on quite a few plane crashes. Very few of them result in survivors living to tell the tale.
A Greensboro man was one of the lucky ones. 6 years ago, his plane died as he flew over the Atlantic Ocean. His story gets even more interesting from there. Flying has been in Ed Regensburg's blood for most of his life.
I went to GTCC Aviation School when it first opened in Greensboro.
Over the years, he got involved in volunteer work, airlifting hospital patients, rescue animals, even supplies following natural disasters.
During Katrina, a lot of us pilots flew missions to carry supplies down to Florida.
But on March 5th, 2019,
I get goosebumps even now talking about it.
It was Regensburg who needed the help while flying back with a friend from the island of St. Croix.
I had a light came on for low engine oil pressure, and then the light changed from a yellow light to a red light, and then ultimately the engine started to shake and the propeller stopped.
The engine shut down 8,000 feet in the air and 30 miles from land. Regensburg immediately reverted to his training.
Even though the engine stopped, and I knew it had no oil, and I knew the engine wasn't going to start again, I still went through the paces, switched fuel tanks, added fuel pump, attempted restart.
But it didn't matter. The plane was dead, and they were up here in the clouds. The last hope, a parachute attached to the plane. Regensburg pulled the chute, slowing down the plummet to Earth. What came next? A 6-minute descent to impact.
Face the fact that you're going to be in the water shortly. It just doesn't seem like 6 minutes. It seemed like seconds.
As you can imagine, they hit the surface of the water hard.
When I hit the water, my door flew off, and there was, 4 to 6 foot swells. And the first thing I got was a big splash when a wave hit me. And it was cold.
Miraculously, he and his friend Danny were okay, but there was no time to celebrate. They were now in a race to stay afloat.
I had a raft in the back seat, threw it on the wing, deployed the raft.
Within minutes, they were on the raft while their plane floated away. They still had a phone to capture the moments as they watched it sink below the surface.
The engine compartment filled up with water first, and so it went from floating flat to a nose down position, tail up in the air. And because the winds were still strong the entire time, the parachute was still inflated.
Minutes later, the sea swallowed up the plane, and the men were alone, floating in the Atlantic.
It wasn't until we were in the raft talking and the airplane finally had sunk that it kind of dawns on you what you just survived.
After their crash landing, Regensburg and his friend spent the next 4 hours floating, hoping for someone to rescue them. Imagine their surprise when, along the horizon, they spotted a cruise ship heading right for them.
How ironic would that be? You survive a plane crash in the middle of the ocean only to get run over by a ship that didn't see you.
But the crew did see them and sent a rescue boat after them as cruise ship passengers watched from the decks in awe, recording the whole thing.
As they got us in the boat and pulled up next to the cruise ship, there's 200-something people on the cruise ship waving and cheering.
Regensburg says the captain and crew treated them like royalty.
He said, "You're welcome to use any and all the facilities on the ship are open to you, no charge. The only thing you're not allowed in my casino because you're too lucky."
By the next day, they were on a commercial flight back to Greensboro with quite the story to tell.
God is great. He has a way of making things work out. Luckily, it worked out for us.
Even 6 years later, it's difficult for Regensburg to think about.
I don't really think about it that much. I try not to. I still get overwhelmed by it.
The whole experience taught him an important life lesson.
It's like life is short. Take time to enjoy it and appreciate the people that are in your life because they may not be there someday.
Ed Regensburg now lives in Belize and still flies often. He says it took him about a month to get back in the air, but he says there are 2 things he loves: scuba diving and flying. He doesn't plan on giving either of them up anytime soon.